is the pedestrian route amendments to the pedestrian and bicycle plan at
So it's off the agenda?
55th through 53rd Street. And Charlie, I think.
This
or
is
that Diane?
Diana's.
Okay.
It's saying where they are. Oh, good.
Not a better deal.
Oh, that's.
This is an amendment to the bicycle plan,
India's here.
emerging from something that was brought up in the Bicycle Pedestrian Subcommittee of the Transportation Committee. One of the members of the subcommittee said, there's this gate between the Pickleworks property and the Thoroughbred building that if it were open, people could walk through. And it is private property, but the subcommittee decided to recommend that the city attempt to negotiate access through there, and took it to the Transportation Committee, which sent it to the council. And at the council, the city attorney said, well, you would have to amend the bicycle pedestrian plan before you could start trying to negotiate with these folks about that. So that's what we're doing. We're asking if you would like to approve amending the bicycle pedestrian plan to add this link. So I'll show where it is.
Boy, look at all the crowds gone. Isn't that cool?
Oh, everybody left. Everybody left. Yeah, I know. I was wondering that too. It's all about the bike thing, isn't it?
Should be here for that.
Maybe
This is a map that I traced from the parcel map.
Could you?
Yeah, can you zoom?
zoom
After
in?
maybe after giving us a locational thing, you can zoom in for us, Diana.
Okay, let's see. I'm not used to wearing glasses yet.
Join the crowd.
Yeah, right.
This is Doyle Street. This is the Doyle Street Cafe. This is 55th Street. There are residences along in here. This is Spur Alley. This is 53rd Street. This is 54th Street. The Child Development Center is on 53rd Street. The Thoroughbred building is here, and the Pickleworks building is here. Let me zoom that in and do it again.
Great.
There.
That's good.
Is that better?
Oh, it was. There we go.
So the gate is here between a courtyard and the Thoroughbred, the Pickleworks building property, and a parking aisle in the Thoroughbred building property. When the Thoroughbred building was first developed, the developer and landlord courteously kept the hallway open so people could walk through here, and then once there was one tenant in the whole building, that tenant said, no, we don't want to do that anymore. And there was certainly no requirement. That was just something he was doing. So I think people miss that, and they see that gate, and they wish they could go through it, and they would like the city to be able to attempt to negotiate a link through there. I guess there's not that much more to say.
The gate's
Unless
not
you
through
have
the building.
questions.
The gate's not through the building. It's in the parking lot next door to the building.
It's between the parking lot of the Thoroughbred building and a sort of a courtyard in the Pickleworks property.
This is all on private property, right?
It is private property.
Why
Have
is
the property owners voiced any support, or I mean, what is their position on
I
it?
think
Well,
they're here,
I'm sure
right?
they'll
Okay.
express it. They might not say the same thing I do, but I had a conversation with them where I said, might it be possible to have a conversation about this in the future? And they said, maybe.
Can I,
That sounds like a definite maybe.
Diana, why is the gate there? This has nothing to do with the condition of approval for either of those developments?
In the staff report for the approval of the Pickleworks project, there is a brief mention that it might be nice to have that courtyard be available for people in both buildings.
Oh.
There's certainly not a requirement.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Without seeing any other questions, let's open this public hearing for comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item
I bet the
and
landowners do.
educate the commission?
Who is this strange fellow here?
Yeah.
How does this work?
There's a button off to the right, closer to
No,
you,
it-
right
it's
next to
right,
you.
it's
Right
right
in
by,
front of
by
you.
your thigh, Andy.
Wide.
Other way.
Other way. Wide.
This property.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He used to be on the planning commission too.
Okay.
Yeah, so Andy understands a little of this. A little. Evening.
Still here.
Thank you.
Pretty detailed.
Doyle Street. Okay, here's Doyle. Okay.
This is a much better drawing than mine.
Good evening. My name is Andy Getz, and I'm one of the two affected
Pick
property
up the
Andy,
owners.
could you
microphone there.
raise the mic?
There you go.
Oh, yes. Good evening. I'm Andy Getz, and I'm one of the two affected property owners, the managing partner of the owner of the Thoroughbred building. And it is true that no good deed goes unpunished. We kept the hallway of the Thoroughbred building open for 6 or 7 or 8 years. It was my opinion that it was a good thing to have public through traffic, and I was willing to take the risks myself, and it gave public restrooms in that hallway available to the public. And the pathway was relatively safely through a building and along a sidewalk along the side of a parking lot, and I felt that it was a risk worth taking. When the building was taken over by the Chiron Corporation after Adobe Systems moved out, it had serious security concerns, which of course were exacerbated by the bombing, and it now, of course, we've closed that hallway, and Chiron has no interest in letting the parking lot be open to the public. And so there is no chance of negotiating a public easement through that parking lot for the near-term foreseeable future. It's under relatively long-term lease. Therefore, there is no near-term benefit to amending the pedestrian and bicycle system of the city of Emeryville, because there is no chance that I would negotiate, absent a condemnation of the entire property, a public access right through, because my long-term tenant, Chiron Corporation, simply won't have it. This is a short link of proposed public access through exclusively private property, through a place where we put a gate for our own convenience, and I was just discussing with my neighboring property owner replacing the gate with a solid fence in order to make the situation a bit clearer. This dead-end link, which connects to no other part of the pedestrian or bicycle matrix of the city of Emeryville, connects with no other city, is not a part of the legitimate path or system of pedestrian and bicycle movement through and around the city, is a ridiculous proposal that provides no benefit except for the harassment of two private property owners. I'd be happy to answer questions.
So can we take that as
Andy?
a no?
I do have a question.
I'd be delighted.
What, I'm a little confused then. Where is this coming from? There's been no history
Beats
or
me.
discussion? Okay.
Beats me. In
And
the
you haven't
event
heard
that
this
in the
before.
event that it became a multi-tenant building in the long-term future, I would do what I did before, which is open the hallway, which is a safer route for the public and provides restroom access, which is far superior.
And that hallway cuts from that corner there at Doyle to 55th. It cuts straight
Does this
through.
work?
Yeah, you can point. We'll see your finger. There you go. There you go.
The hallway is this hallway shown here.
Okay. So it dumps back into the parking lot there.
It goes from 55th, and then the pathway is down along a sidewalk.
Okay.
So that by going through the hallway, you don't find yourself dumped out into a traffic lane. Imagine what I would be saying to my insurance carrier about allowing parents with small children to walk their children to the child care center through the drive lanes of the incoming traffic area of my private parking lot. I'd have a great time with my insurance carrier.
And you have a parking stall where the
There's
gate
a
opens as
handicap
well?
stall there,
Okay.
2 precarious stepping stones, and a difference of grade.
And how is your project parked? I mean, is that parking a premium there? Losing that
This is
stall.
Emeryville. Is
Yeah.
parking a premium?
I guess I was just getting you to point that out.
You
there.
mean, oh, you're suggesting that we should perhaps give up a parking stall for the
I
convenience
assume that
of
would
the-
have to be part of the easement to get people through there, is to give up that parking stall.
No easement is offered.
Right. Thanks for clarifying. Is there anyone else wishing
I
to
would
speak?
like, it may not be relevant, but I'd like to say that if there's a handicap zone there, there would be a space next to the parking place that people could walk through.
An accessible space?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Ron Mooney. I'm the president of California Syrup and Extract Company, LLC, the owners of the Pickleworks building. And after, I guess I'm the one that's at fault here, because after about 2 or 3 minutes on the phone with your staff member and saying, well, geez, is there ever a possibility, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's sort of, is anything ever possible? Sure, maybe we could talk about it. So for the record, I've talked to my members, and we do not support this proposal, and we would not enter into negotiations with the city. Obviously, there's condemnation that the city could take, but we're not supportive of this. The gate that goes between the properties, frankly, really is because I happen to know Mr. Getz, and we've been friendly, and it opens up so that he can come in and do repairs of windows and things without having to go around and things like that. I don't have a key to it. He has a key to it. But it's not a 3-inch issue of a fence being in the way. It's our private property that we have a gate on the 55th Street side too, that if we chose to, we could close. It's for egress of our tenants. It's not a public thoroughfare. So, you know, it actually, frankly, it pains me to come here. Many of you know that I've been around the city for a while. I still work here in some capacity. And, you know, it's hard for me to come and say no to this. And I do want to talk about the process. Where did this come from? Planning commissioners, it's pretty upsetting when your brother calls you and says, I'm reading the telephone poll, and it says that we're on the agenda for a bicycle path to go through our property. What the bleep is going on? And I kind of left that same message for Mr. Flores, who said he has a very efficient staff. He didn't know this was going to be on, and he would hope that we'd be contacted. We were never contacted except for a standard mailing that comes out that says, you know, things are happening to your property. Staff didn't call up and say, geez, we talked to you a few weeks ago. Now we've been directed to bring it to the Planning Commission. I think that's dead wrong. You ought to talk to the property owners and say, this is what's going on. There should be part of the staff report as to what our official position was. So again, we're not in favor of it. And I will always have a meeting with John Flores, but I'll be very respectful to him, but, you know, I can't offer any easement.
Thank you. Can I ask you, Ron, the gate that's on 55th, which is a wonderful gate, I assume you lock that in the evening? I went by the site today and that gate was unlocked.
Yeah.
So tell us about that gate and
So
why there is a gate there.
It can be locked. It's part of it's frankly, it's a piece of public art and part of the design. You know, our tenants, we haven't had problems, you know, knock on wood. Frankly, I believe 10 years ago this came up, and the issue is, you know, we really don't want people being able to traverse through that narrow alley between 53rd and 55th Street. It becomes a big security issue for us, then opens up people going into the back of our property. So far, our tenants are very happy with having it open, but, you know, with a few hardware changes, it could be locked at night, and frankly, it could be locked all day long.
Okay.
All we have to do is make sure that people can get out.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yes, I'm Ken Bukowski, Vice Mayor. I can probably help explain how, I don't know how it got on your agenda, but the Transportation Committee voted to have the staff negotiate with these folks to see if we can get access. You know, what's real disappointing about this, and I love both these guys, they're really great community people, but when it comes to this issue, I have a real problem. You know, when Andy first conceived this project, he had a driveway on 55th Street and on 53rd Street. And as soon as he found out there would be a requirement for access to go through there, the plans changed instantly. You know, he's got the railroad spur behind 55th and Doyle, that's where all the commercial loading should be for those businesses there instead of on Doyle Street. And I tried to get bike access through there, didn't work. I appealed the project, that didn't work. And in the name of humanity, you know, we have to walk a substantial distance around those blocks to get to the other side of town. I mean, isn't there any way you can conceive of having an opening there that would really help us? I mean, why do people that live in co-housing have to walk 8 blocks to get where they could, when they could just walk through the property? I mean, you had Chiron open, you had the building open, I was going through there, then all of a sudden it was closed and it's locked, and now we can't get through there. So, you know, I don't know what the right thing to do is, but we really need an access through there, and if you could find some way to accommodate it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing no one else, we'll close the public hearing. Charlie or Diana, can you give us an additional explanation for why we're seeing this tonight and why the property owners weren't consulted in advance and why that's not incorporated into the staff report?
Well, that was
I feel like
obvious.
I'm in the dark.
I did talk to them at one point. I should have talked to them obviously later and said, guess what, you're on the planning commission now agenda to revise the plan. So I apologize for that. That was a mistake. In terms of what's happened between the time it came to the council and the time it's come to the planning commission, or at least between the time I talked to them and the time it's come to the planning commission, they've obviously talked to their tenants and their partners and decided that the answer has changed from maybe to no.
And maybe just to clarify again, I believe Diana mentioned this in her presentation, but the reason it's before you tonight is that the Bicycle and Pedestrian Subcommittee of the Transportation Committee recommended that staff negotiate an easement with these 2 property owners. That recommendation was forwarded to the full Transportation Committee, which included it in their report to the City Council. So the City Council was asked, I think at their last meeting, or possibly it was October 5th meeting, to direct staff to negotiate with these property owners about an easement. At that, the city attorney at that point advised that you really can't put a pedestrian and bicycle route through here unless it's in your ped bike plan. So you really need to amend the ped bike plan, and that needs to go through the planning commission first before it comes to council, at which point the council looked at me and said, well, Mr. Bryant, how fast can you get this on the planning commission's agenda? And I said, we'll put it on the next meeting. And that's why it's here.
Okay. Thanks, Charlie. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I got a comment. You know, this is really pretty interesting. First of all, you know, this is private property, and one of the things that I know, because I've had a little bit of experience with this, is that if you do open up your private property to with as Andy says, a good deed here, a lot of legislation and a lot of regulations and a lot of insurance issues come up. And so there is absolutely no, unless we get a total approval by both of the property owners, there's just no way I could support this. They have to be 100% behind it, and they're 100% against it. So, you know, there's absolutely no way that I could go forward with this.
The property that was there before Andy bought it, you know, was an industrial building. There was never any access from Doyle straight through over to 53rd. And anybody that lived on Doyle, the co-housing, whoever, had to just go around Stanford and go down Hollis. And that's always happened that way. There's never been a passageway through there until Andy agreed to open it. So there never has been one before. Why do we want to now start opening up passageways and creating easements in areas that never was? Just because it's a little less inconvenient for them to walk around the corner? I mean, walking is good. And if we're going to go have some fights about taking away property rights, you know, I'm a strong believer in property rights, as you all know, and I'm always speaking at the wind. Then let's make it an important one. This is not an important one. These are 2 beautiful projects that they created there, you know, so let's let them have them.
Anyone else? I guess, Patty?
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, as much as I would love to see a pathway through there, without the cooperation of the property owners and doing this good deed for a very long time, sometimes these good deeds can come back to haunt you. I just don't think I could support it. As much as I would love to have pedestrian access, I just don't think it's appropriate for us to even be considering this.
Jennifer, did you want to?
I would agree with Commissioner Jeffries.
Yeah, just ditto here.
I understand the intent, and I have concern about closing off streets, and we've heard some movement in that regard, but this is sort of the opposite of that, and we're asking an applicant now, apparently without condition, to open up their property. And you need to really look at what it means, and I think there's a very good point that we're inviting the public through an easement and a use to go through without a sidewalk, without a designated area for them to get through safely. We're asking them to walk through the length of that parking lot, and I drove through that parking lot today, and I don't think it would be a good idea to be mixing pedestrian and bicycle use through that parking lot. If you're going to create something like this, you'd need the space to have a safe way to get people from 55th down to 53rd. And it would be nice to eventually see that and have that happen, but that's going to take a lot more than just a little easement that goes through a gate that may be there that may require elimination of a handicap space, because that dumps people into the driving area, that parking lot. And, frankly, I think that's a mistake. And it
Along pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree with you, but I would like to point out that there are two bikeways through parking lots in the bike plan. One through Sheraton, which is the Bay Trail, and one through Spur Alley, which has an irrevocable...
But that was different because that was granted
right, but I'm just saying that
voluntarily.
the idea of having bicycles through parking lots may not be a good idea, but it
Right.
wouldn't be the first.
right, bicycle and pedestrian. I understand the point. There are complications to this parking lot. It's diagonal parking. Spur Alley is parallel parking. I think they're just, in my mind, there's some safety complications that don't lend themselves to providing access through here. So I'm not in support
Spur
of it
Alley
either.
is one way also, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Okay.
No.
Oh,
fine.
no.
So I'm not sure unless you, perhaps you can take it back to the council.
Well, I think,
Let them fix it.
I think it dies for lack of a motion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Unless you want to tell us to prepare findings for denial for your next meeting, but I think that's sort of.
I don't think that's necessary.
No,
If I could say one thing here, it was really the intent to negotiate with these guys, not to take their property.
Yeah, it's unfortunate how it
The
happened.
city attorney says you can't negotiate with them until you take an action to put it in a plan.
That's my
And that was the
understanding.
problem. We didn't
Right.
say, go take their property. We just want to negotiate with them, and we
Right.
can't do it unless you take an action that says we want it. So,
if we take no action, there's no negotiation.
well, that's too bad. Should we really close negotiation off for something that could be very beneficial?
Well,
Right.
you could always talk to them
Well, yeah.
individually, right? You don't have to go through the city.
Well, in order for the council to get a negotiation from the staff, that was what
but
was necessary.
you
Okay.
know-
I
Thanks,
don't
Ken.
understand, when you ride a bicycle, that's pretty fast. What's the big deal about going down Stanford and going down Hollis? You want a shortcut to go to where? To the child care center?
The big deal is the pedestrian, not for the bicycles. Just for the
I
reason
think
you
so.
said.
Yeah.
I think overall the idea is to try to link the city wherever you can. But in this instance, unfortunately, I don't think it was designed into the project, and I have concerns, and I think you heard from the rest of the commission that there are problems.
And it was never there before,
Right.
It was just because, I guess it got started because Andy let him walk through, see?
Yeah, well, it's a good idea. It's just the aspect that there's some things have come up that it can't happen. So unfortunately, that's the way it is.